Why do we overspend and stick to our bad money habits? Ted's here. Let's begin.
This is Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Okay, welcome back, Ted. You have no idea what the topic is because, well, you just heard me read the intro.
I did.
Why do we overspend and stick to our bad money habits? But as you can see, those of you who are watching on YouTube, Ted has no cue cards. He knows nothing about what's coming.
I'm trying to figure out a subtle way to get my wife to listen to this episode.
Ooh. Well, you can put as many little comments in as you want. So you have no idea what are on my cue cards here, so we're just going to completely wing it.
Good.
So my first question for you, and maybe you don't have an answer for this question, but do you have any impulse purchases that you think back on and go, gee, I kind of regret that? Or maybe you've had clients who've said, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. What pops into your mind? And I want the viewer to be answering this question for themselves too.
I remember when I was younger, I used to say, you know what? $5. If something costs less than $5, I don't really care. I don't pay much attention to it. And over the years, that number's changed a few times. I think now it's like at $20, I don't pay as much attention as I should. And that's a bad habit for me to pass on to my children. So it's the way I dealt with all of this was there was a certain level, and it was pretty low, that I said, hey, wait a minute, should I be doing that? But I'm an accountant.
That's true.
So a different mindset.
Yeah, that's an interesting way. See, that's just why it's good that we don't give you cue cards, because we get to find out what's going on in your brain there. And and I wonder how many other people do it the same way. It's like, okay, if I'm buying a coffee, I'm not thinking about it.
Well, and that's the perfect example, except for a coffee isn't $5 anymore. I don't go to, I don't drink coffee.
You don't drink that.
Because that's all we need is on caffeine. But
and just for the viewer here, there's nothing in his coffee cup. It's mine actually does have coffee in it.
That's right.
But Ted, yeah.
But what's it cost when you go to the drive-thru at Starbucks?
I don't know.
Can you get out of there for $5?
I don't know. I've never
I have my doubts.
Been there either. But that's because I'm cheap.
Right.
And so...
Well, you notice something? I noticed this yesterday when I was grocery shopping. So it used to be, they've got the coolers by the checkout counter. You could get a Coke for 50 cents. And that was ridiculous. Now they're $3, just like they are at a variety or a convenience store. So it's the supermarket where you could buy a dozen cans of soda for $7, or you can buy a single can for $3. That's the power of the impulse buy as you're going out. I mean, It's no longer the deal that it used to be.
That's a true story?
That's yesterday.
A true story from yesterday. So I was not at the grocery store yesterday, and I have not actually seen that, but that's...
When's the last time you were in a grocery store? Let's not go there.
Well, probably in the last month or two.
Oh, okay.
But... because, my wife takes care of that, because otherwise I will come home with cans of Coke.
Right.
What, you don't even drink Coke. What do you Well, I was right there, and I got the...
I was hungry, so I bought more.
Got the thing, and that's what I did. So, and so what you are describing there is an impulse purchase.
Right.
So if I went to the store to buy cans of Coke or bottled water or something, if I'm buying a case, I'm paying 50 cents or $1 or whatever it is. But if I'm buying it at the checkout for some unknown reason, it's way more. So I'm going to give you two theories on why people overspend.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what you think. So why is it people overspend? Is it either we're talking about impulse spending or just spending too much, either way? So my first theory is, we're not disciplined. We aren't good with money. It's a personal problem. And my second theory is, we're manipulated by marketing and societal norms and keeping up with the Joneses. So it's not entirely our fault. So which of those two theories do you think is most applicable?
I'd like to put more blame on the second than the first, because then you're externalizing the problem. There's other people causing you to do this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that people are bad with money. The issue in discussing your first argument was that they just don't keep track of it. So it's not that they're deliberately bad with money. It's that I'm not aware of what I'm actually spending anywhere. So again, it's I've stopped for coffee 5 times a week. I've gone grocery shopping. I'm not using a list, so I'm hungry today, so I put an extra $30 worth of stuff in the cart. And it's not that you're bad with money. It's just you're not following a plan.
It's not tracking. Okay, so we're going to talk about all of those things today then. So I'm going to give you some examples of number 2 where we're manipulated by marketing and so on.
Yep.
And, I'm going to go through this list, and my point here is so that we all can kind of recognize when these tricks are happening, so that we don't fall into the trap of overspending. So the most obvious example is advertising. Right. That's kind of the whole point of advertising, is to get you to spend money.
Well, and have you noticed that I don't know, 75% of all advertising is fear-mongering. So it's not that they're trying to sell you this thing because it's great. It's you got to have it because your neighbor's got it. Or if you don't have this, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, fear is the most powerful emotion.
Right.
And so, yes, if you're going to sell something, then you sell it through fear as opposed to, oh, it's a good thing.
Right.
So, the car ad, well, we got 12 airbags in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get in a crash, you won't get hurt. That's a fear thing, right?
Right.
The other obvious example would be life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's to protect you from death.
Yeah.
So I think they should call it death insurance, but that's again a fear type.
We
thing.
should call them debt cards.
Absolutely,
again, right?
Absolutely right. They're not credit cards; they're debt cards. So, is there any way to resist that then?
Well, they're much better at this than you are, right? Even the subliminal stuff, which we don't see much of anymore. I think it's all been outlawed.
Well, it's subliminal. How could you see it? How do you even know?
If you look, you can see it.
I see.
That's the whole plan. But you got to remember that in every transaction that you are ever going to be involved in, I don't care what it is, buying, a candy bar at the convenience store, the people selling it do that for a living. They have so much more experience, power, authority, expertise. They're going to get you no matter what you do.
So you have to be on guard.
You do. And nobody cares about how you spend your money except for you.
So you have to be the one responsible. Well, going back to your grocery store example,
right?
Is it not true that there is stuff on different levels of shelves depending on?
Oh, there is, yeah. So my children like to eat pickles, but they only eat the no garlic dill pickles.
Of course,
and
the no garlic dill pickles.
They used to be at chest height. Now they're on the very bottom shelf. And so that means either the margins on those pickles aren't very good or they don't sell very many of them anyway. But it's there. You actually have to go looking for them now. So it's not the product that you would just reach out and grab.
Yeah, and my understanding, because I saw it on the interweb somewhere, is that the big brand, what's a potato chip brand?
Lay's.
Lay's, okay. So they pay more money or have some special deal, so they're on the top row or the eye-level row.
Like the pop and the potato chip, they actually go in and stock the shelves in the supermarkets. So the supermarket people aren't stocking themselves.
So it's the guy from Coke or Pepsi.
It's the guy who has the route, who's getting the commission. He's the one who puts them where he wants them.
Gotcha. And so
in the space that's been designated.
And so I am going to put things at eye level because that's more likely.
Right.
Whereas the other stuff that's at the bottom.
The most popular brand of chips will be, right front and center. The second-tier ones above. Anything that's less popular will be down below.
And we are not sponsored by any of those brands.
But we would like to be. You can send us a lifetime supply because we do eat potato chips.
Go on Twitter and go to at Doug Hoyes and send me your details, and we'll take your chips.
I'm waiting. We're going to get a complaint about me being a misogynist because I keep making jokes about my wife. I'm not. I love my wife.
Exactly. And you live in a family of females. Like you're the only
completely
male.
Outnumbered.
Exactly. So advertising, product placement. The message here is it's all done deliberately.
Right. Take product placement to the next level. It's where it's located in the store. So you want to run in and get some milk. Well, milk is in the far back corner of the supermarket, so you have to go down at least one or two rows to get to it, and they're going to sell you something else.
Yeah, the most popular items, milk, eggs, bread, I don't know, they're all at the very far point. It would make much more sense to put them up front so I could just zip and get them and go, but that's not what they want.
Yeah, we can't sell you more stuff if you just get in and get out.
Now, I'm trying to think, you go into one of the grocery stores, I won't mention their brand name, but it's Farm Boy I'm talking about.
Right.
Which, of course, is just a division of Sobeys.
I've never been in a Farm Boy.
Oh, wow. So there you go. I'll take you sometime. So you go in, and the first thing you hit is the fruit and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. The produce, yeah. And I don't know if that's in every store or...
Produce and prepared foods now are what you see first.
Well, what they have is they've got you're right, they got the plastic containers with the salads and chopped up watermelons and all that kind of stuff.
And they probably got rotisserie chickens and
that's and then as you walk
cabbage rolls and all sorts of stuff.
But you're right, you have to walk all the way to the far corner to get to milk and eggs. Exactly. So advertising, product placement, and we're not saying there's anything wrong with that.
No. In fact, we're in favor of all that stuff.
We're just saying you have to be conscious of the fact that the stuff that you really need and is perhaps better priced is going to be bottom shelf, far end of the...
You got to look for it.
You got to look for it. You got to have a plan. Second item on my list here, targeted ads. So this is something that, of course, when we were kids didn't exist because the newspaper had the same ads for everybody.
Right.
But now when you're on the internet, well, you're getting ads that are specifically targeted to you.
Right.
And so I can guarantee you when both of us get on our computer after the show, we're going to get ads for potato chips. We don't eat potato chips, but because we've talked about it, they are targeted. And they're targeted at what you're talking about, but they're also targeted at fear.
Right.
As you described, your insecurities and whatever. And again, there's no way to resist that, is there?
Well, and it's worse because so they've targeted you once with this product or idea, it's going to repeat. So that the idea, even if you don't act on it the first time, by the time you see it the fifth or sixth time, I got to get some potato chips.
Yeah, and I go on the newspaper website, I go on the sports site, I go on, and I'm still seeing the same ads.
They're tracking you wherever you go.
They follow you all over the place. So again, you want to be conscious that that's happening. Then, of course, we have social media. Yeah. Now, I know you're not a social media guy.
I'm not a social media guy. Freaks me out.
It freaks you out, and you're the smart one. But they have these things called influencers.
Okay.
Influencers. Everybody's an influencer now,
So
right?
these are people that are somehow getting paid?
Yes, they're doing it for money. And so they go on vacation to that place, and of course, there's some kind of deal they've got with that place.
Right.
Or they're always drinking a can of Coke because there's some kind of deal.
Yep.
Makeup. This is the big thing, right?
Right.
And obviously, clearly, we need a sponsor for makeup because we're not.
You know what I spend at Sephora now?
Oh,
I have 4 women in the house.
I've never been inside it, but when I go to the Toronto office and walking through Union Station, the Sephora place is like a massive thing. Although I can give you a good recommendation on makeup removal because I've got a product when I go on TV because they cake it on. So again, it's. Okay, so that person I'm watching on Twitter or whatever we call it now, or TikTok if it still exists or whatever, it's not that they're using that thing because it's a good thing.
They're using it for another reason.
Right. The other thing I've been doing lately on YouTube is watching old shows.
Is it old TV shows?
Yes. Oh. There was a show in the 1950s and early 1960s called What's My Line?
Yeah, I know that show.
There you go. Well, you were actually alive in the 1960s. Not the 1950s, but the 60s.
Right.
And I think it went out of production or about the year I was born, so it hasn't been on the air in 60 years. But it, the show was sponsored by Kellogg's.
Right.
And so the same cereals we've got now, they're right on there. Pretty obvious that it was sponsored. But the host might be drinking a can of Coke or something. So they had the product placement even back then.
Right.
And they still do that in movies and things like that today. But with the social media people, it's even more, hidden but obvious.
Yeah. No, we're back to the subliminal.
It's all back to the subliminal thing. Okay. So then the next one on my list is the power of urgency. Okay.
Call to action. Do it now.
Exactly. Limited time offers, flash sale, scarcity. So this deal will only be available for 24 hours.
So it's still your fear thing.
Right.
You're going to miss out somehow.
And okay, you're selling me a bag of potato chips. They're only going to be available for 24 hours. Like, is that really a thing?
Price.
At the special price. And so is the special price the same as what the price was a week ago, but then they raised it for 2 days and they put it back down or whatever? Like, how do you know if you're getting screwed or not?
And you don't.
You don't. So you have to be very conscious of your prices. Now, your example of pickles without garlic.
Yep.
What does a jar of those pickles cost?
I think it was $6.99.
$6.99. And so if they were on sale for $4.99, you go, oh, that's pretty good.
I would know
price.
that. I'd buy 2 jars.
Yeah, because it's exactly the same brand.
Right.
And if they're $10, you go, boy, that seems pretty high.
Right. I'm going to give them the ones with the garlic that are cheaper
Absolutely.
and see if they notice.
Why they're cheaper with garlic, I don't understand.
Right.
But at the grocery store, there's a little placard that says $6.99.
Right.
There is no price sticker on it that says that.
There is not.
And so you got to be very conscious of, okay, well, and then when you get to the beeping machine, is it still $6.99? How do you really know?
That's a tough one. I mean, there have been court cases where supermarkets have the shelf price has not been the computer price, but
and as they're beeping through,
how the hell do you catch
exactly? How do you even know? So okay, the power of urgency. Is it really that urgent? Like, are you really getting a deal? And I think you have to be aware of what the prices were to begin with. Platforms as virtual shopping malls. Ads and influencer promotions seamlessly integrated into feeds. Well, that's exactly what we just talked about.
Right.
That you're watching an advertisement. You think you're watching entertainment. No, you're watching an ad. Easy purchase pathways. Okay, so again, what we're talking about here is how we are manipulated by marketing and societal norms and so on. Easy purchase pathways. So I've actually been on Amazon. I was there yesterday, as a matter of fact. And one click to order.
Yeah.
Like it could not possibly be easier. And so I was getting some little thing. I don't know what it was.
That's because you've pre-populated everything, right?
Yes.
Your credit card, your address, your delivery preferences.
Social insurance number, blood type, everything is logged in there so the world knows. But okay, I do my search. I want to buy the book Straight Talk on Your Money by Doug Hoyes. I click on the button and click here to finish, whatever it's called. I don't, and the color of the button is very carefully thought through. I think it's orange or yellow or whatever it is. You click the button. Oh, is this where you want it delivered to? That's it.
Right.
So it literally takes 30 seconds or whatever, shows up at your door the next day. Again, what can I do about that? I guess nothing. Like it's just the way it is. Would it be better if I only went to a physical store?
Well, certainly sales were lower when people had to go out to a physical store.
That would create friction. But should I make it a policy of myself that, no, I only buy things at a physical store?
Well, but you know what an interesting policy would be is, okay, so you've selected this, but you don't actually hit buy till the next day, or you let some time lapse before you actually buy it to make sure you really need or want it.
That's a good tip. We're going to talk about that. Soft selling. So again, we talked about product placements, lifestyle endorsements. They feel a little less intrusive because you're watching that video.
This, a lot sneakier. Right?
Yeah.
The soft sell is the one you're not aware that you're even being sold.
Yep. And so you're watching the gardening video, as I'm sure you do all the time. And the guy's using this new improved shovel. Oh, that's great. And there's a link in the description to get this new and improved shovel.
Right.
Now, is that bad? Well, the shovel seems to work pretty good, actually.
Shovels haven't changed much. But
Well, I was watching a video of a guy shoveling his driveway with a it was kind of a long flat piece that had a couple of wheels on it. And he's zipping along, boom, boom. And I'm going, okay, you got like a centimeter of fluffy snow.
Right.
Your driveway is completely flat. It's not raining. It's not like, okay, you know.
This is not real.
So I didn't buy it.
Right.
But one of my neighbors did come by the other day while I was shoveling, and he said, oh, yeah, I got this new shit. It's Teflon coated. Okay, so I was more willing to trust my neighbor's recommendation because he seemed to know what he's talking about.
Is he an influencer?
He's an influencer. Well, in my neighborhood.
Informal influencer.
Because he walks his dog, and I say hello to him every time, and the dog's very friendly. Here's a more insidious one, I think. Encouraging debt. So, okay, we understand the whole marketing thing, but if you have to use debt to buy it, isn't that just like the worst possible thing?
Right. Well, from our perspective, it certainly is. So they're doing this by, we'll give you a preferential interest rate, we'll give you preferential payment terms, there'll be a delay in interest or something, some way to get you to take that extra step to buy.
And that's really bad because now you're not only overspending, which is the whole theme of this show,
right,
but you're overspending leading to debt, which is the worst possible thing. And then the final point on my list, I think we've kind of hit on this one already, is the lack of transparency. Sponsored content may not always be disclosed, which kind of blurs the line between a genuine recommendation and a paid promotion.
Well, anytime there's product placement, you don't know if they're getting paid for that or not. Well, I do. They are getting paid. Yeah. And we've been very explicit in this show. We're not getting any paid from that potato chip company or the coffee company or the Coke company. We'd like to. So if you want to call us.
Yes. But so I guess we're already on the take.
Yeah.
Even though this is, I think, show number 545. We've been doing this for 10 and a half years and nobody's ever offered
us money.
But someday we will get there. Okay, so let's talk about sticking to bad habits then, because I wanted to talk about why do we overspend. We've talked about that. And then why do we then stick to these bad habits when we already have them?
People are creatures of habit. You do what works.
I think that's exactly right. We're in our comfort zones, and once you've got that habit in the routine, then it just you lock into it. So you already gave the example of the coffee, which you don't drink. If every morning you go to the coffee shop and you buy the $5 coffee when you could have made it at home for 50 cents,
right?
It's like, well, it's just more convenient, and I don't want to carry a mug with me and all the rest of it.
It's a luxury item. You're making a decision. You feel good about yourself. There's lots of reasons why people do it, and I'm not telling you not to do it. We're just telling you to be aware that that's one of the way you're spending your money.
Yeah,
making a decision.
That $5 coffee in the morning may be the best expense of your day.
Right.
Like that's something that gets me going, and I don't eat breakfast, so I have a cup of coffee. I'm good till lunch, and okay, that's probably better than some other alternatives. So yeah, we're not telling you what to do. I'll just take a sip of my coffee here while we talk. But what we're telling you is be aware of what you're doing.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. So the question that I asked you at the beginning, I'll ask you again. So is overspending more about emotions or societal pressures, or neither?
Well, but societal pressures are really just triggers on emotions. So your question, is it overspending about emotions? Almost all spending is about emotions. So people have needs and people have wants. And the trick is for them to convince you that the thing that you want are actually a need. So now you don't even think about spending it. The needs, you got to have food. You got to have water. You got to have a place to live. You got to have gas in your car. Well, see, we're pushing the limit.
Yeah.
I want the fancier food. I want the
fancier car.
The fancier car, the tastier chips. The trick is for them to convince me emotionally that those are actual needs. They're not wants, they're needs. I got to have that.
And the garlic pickles. Let's not
forget
about
pickles.
that.
And that was because I don't want to listen to my children.
Got to have
garlic pickles.
Oh, no garlic.
Get it
pickles.
right. Yeah.
See, I would have thought the standard was that pickles didn't have garlic, but apparently
standard
I'm
is
wrong.
they come with garlic.
See, I did not know that. And so this is a valuable podcast for everybody.
That's right. We're all learning things.
Exactly. Okay, so let's close with our actionable tips.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you already gave one, which was a waiting period.
Right. So you've decided you need something. And so we don't know if this is a planned purchase or an impulse. But the way you control the validity of it is to say, okay, now I've made the decision I want it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to look at this again in an hour, 2 hours tomorrow, and then decide I'm actually going to do it.
And so that's relatively easy when you're doing the online thing because you get it, you put it in your cart, and then you shut your computer off and come back tomorrow.
Right.
And in some cases, the Amazon or whatever will say, oh, you know what? We got a special on this thing now.
Right. Amazing how that happens.
You didn't click on it before. We're coming back to it. So you may actually end up winning. And obviously what that's going to do is curb the impulse buying.
Right.
Because you had to think about it.
Well, and similarly, so plan your expenditures. You're going to the grocery store. Have some kind of either menu or list so you know what it is you're looking for, and you're not going to be going down the road saying, well, yeah, I want that, and just throw it in the cart.
And get the right kind of pickles.
Right.
So I got three tips here.
Okay.
These are steps someone can take today to break a bad money habit. So the first one is self-reflection. That's kind of what you just said. What is causing my overspending? Is it impulse buying? Is it not budgeting? Is it emotion? Too much reliance on emotion? Whatever. You have to actually think about that because for everyone it's different.
Right.
So for some people it's just a convenience thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm coming home from work. I haven't thought about what I'm doing. I need something to eat. I go to the fast food place and grab something.
Right.
Whereas if I planned it out in advance, well, I would have had food at home and I could have cooked my garlic pickles or whatever. I don't know if you cook pickles or not, but so I'm a big believer in self-reflection. I mean, that's a stupid term. That sounds like it.
Right.
But step back and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the words there.
Make a conscious decision.
Right. And then you mentioned this earlier as well, tracking, budgeting, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
What role does that play?
Well, so you got to have goals. You got to have objectives. You got to know what it is that you're trying to do. And then you need a plan in place to achieve those goals, to achieve those objectives. So if you're worried that you have you're lacking control in your spending, well, then you ratchet down some rules, give yourself some discipline that this is what I'm going to do before I spend any money.
Yeah, and there's obviously the easy way and the hard way.
Right.
As I've said on the previous 544 episodes of this show.
We're not fans of electric shock.
Right, we aren't. And I'm not a fan of budgeting because it just...
we don't like the word.
Well, and I don't like the process necessarily because you're not going to do it.
Yep.
I don't like the process of counting calories either, because you're not going to do it. Now, I understand there is some value in it over a limited time period. However, there are easy ways to do it. One way is you pay for everything with your debit card.
Right.
And then I can just go online and look at my statement and go, oh, this is what I spent. And, if you're a fancy guy like you and me, you just download it to a spreadsheet and you can put it in columns or something.
That has the advantage also, though, if you're doing it all with your debit card, you're not putting anything on your credit cards. I mean, the big risk that people run into, end up having to call us, is they spend all their cash and they spend a lot more on credit.
Right. And you have to be very conscious, because when I go to the store, I can only spend what's on it.
Right.
So if I got $300 in my account, I got to spend no more than $300.
Right.
And I think that just enforces discipline on you right away, because it's kind of embarrassing getting to the checkout and
put back the potato chips.
No, I'm keeping those and the pickles. But here's the other thing I'm putting back. I don't really need the milk.
Yeah, the bread and milk.
Yeah, those are empty calories right there. So it's I think about it in advance, and then I track it, and I'm kind of tying the two together. And then the final piece of that would be the whole awareness of it. So what is it that triggers me? So I assume when I'm under a lot of stress, I'm more likely to overspend than when I'm completely low key.
Because whenever you're spending, there's a certain release. There's a gratuitous response. I've bought something, I feel better. Maybe only for a couple of seconds, but there's a positive impact to it.
Yeah, so you got to be aware of all those things. So I think that's essentially the message today is, yeah, we all get into bad habits, not just on spending, but on everything else. So you got to step back. Where am I falling off the rails here? Right. And you probably know.
Yeah. If you take a second to think about it, you'll know. And you'll be harder on yourself than we ever could be. So if you came in and showed us how you spend your money in a month, we'd say, well, do you want to do that, that, or that? But in putting together the list, you would make your own decisions already, saying, this is where I'm going to cut it.
Yeah. And exactly, you made the decision.
It's your life. Nobody else cares as much about you as you.
Don't be listening to us. I was like, what do we know? So, and because everyone's priorities will be different. For some people, that cup of coffee in the morning is the most important expenditure of the day.
Right.
And for other people, it's like, I get the free coffee at work, which is where I got this one, of course. Well, I guess
it's not free for you.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I'm kind of paying for it anyways. So,
but it feels free.
Exactly. And then I think your idea of the 24-hour waiting period, definitely a good one. If you're
particularly for bigger purchases, never buy anything significant. Well, remember what I said at the beginning. I used to think that $5 was significant. So anything less than $5, I just didn't pay any attention to. Now it's more like $20 or $25, but it's still. Anytime you're going to buy a capital item, something that's got some survivability to it, as opposed to something you just consume today, take the time to, this is what I think I want, come back the next day and actually buy it.
Yeah, and then you've made a conscious decision.
There's no
on
rush.
it. So there's no rush. There's no rush. You get your toothbrush tomorrow. Like
Amazon will deliver it the next day.
That's
anyway.
right. It's all good. I think the other thing when you talk about emotions and the inputs and everything, so don't follow that influencer who's always going on these exotic vacations and all these fancy products. Find other people to follow, like Debt Free in 30, for example.
There you go.
We have no sponsors, so you're never going to get sucked into anything here probably. And as a result, then you create the new habits. Okay, maybe I do have to have more of a tracking system, a budgeting system, or whatever. I'm sure there are many different apps and whatnot you can use. The key, though, is do what's right for you.
Yeah, keep it simple. Make sure it's something that you understand and that you'll actually follow. There's no point doing anything sophisticated if you're not going to do it.
There you go. That's the answer. That is the answer to the question about why we overspend and what we can do about it. So now, just as the commercial for us, our firm, which is called Hoyes and Michaelis, because I'm Hoyes and you're Michaelis, we're on all the social media platforms.
We are.
We're not going to sell you any vacations or anything like that. But if you'd like to share your thoughts on what we've talked about today, hashtag DebtFreeIn30, which is the name of what a hashtag is? That's little number sign.
Everybody else calls it a pound sign or a number sign. But
no,
Computer Geeks hashtag.
It's hashtag is what it's called, hashtag. And if you're watching on YouTube, then again, join the many thousands, I don't know how many subscribers we got now, who've subscribed to the channel, like, share, notification button, leave your comments, all that kind of stuff. And the most popular place people listen to us is Spotify.
Okay.
Which has taken over from Apple Podcasts, which used to be the number one thing. But we are on, last month when I looked at it, 62 different platforms people had listened to this show on. Audio.
Wow.
Not too many people. People don't want to watch us so much. Although you did get to see the empty coffee cup today, so it was watching us on YouTube. So, again, thank you to all who are listening. Please like and subscribe. that's our show for today. We've got an interesting show next week that's going to have some data that will blow your mind, but I don't want to jinx it. I'm not going to tell you what it is now. But that will be next week. So until next week, thanks for listening and watching. I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.